Good morning. It's Miguel. So, welcome. Today is the 13th of November, 2018. And, well, we're in the middle of November, and it's pretty exciting. Things are getting geared up for Thanksgiving. And I've really been considering buying a Christmas tree. I went to Michael's last weekend and I saw a Christmas tree that I really like. It's kind of interesting how people have different preferences when it comes to Christmas trees. For example, my favorite Christmas trees are the ones that, at least right now, are the ones that are artificial and are pre-lit. And I particularly love the Christmas trees that have the multicolored lights in them. You know, the blues, the reds, and the greens. And I like those lights that are, how should I say, they're not the LED lights. I like the regular sort of burning lights, the small candle-like ones, I guess is what you could call them, the small bulbs, as opposed to the LEDs. Now, I also really enjoy looking at the white bulbs, you know, the purely white pre-lit Christmas trees. And those are some of my favorites too. I've been steering clear from the live Christmas trees for a long time because they're kind of a hassle to deal with. You know, you've got to deal with the stand, and then you've got to put water in the stand and make sure the water is present. And if you don't, then what happens is that the needles get really dry and they begin to fall off the branches, and then they just make a mess on the floor. You know, there's just a lot of them to deal with. And so, yeah, and then there's the carrying of the Christmas tree into the house and out of the house. It's it's work, you know. But I recognize the how nice it is to have them. You know what? I was thinking about just going all out with the Christmas trees, with the Christmas season this year, and maybe getting a real Christmas tree could be part of going all out. Wow, that would be quite an interesting change for me. I'm not sure I'm willing to put in the energy and the time to make sure I've got a real Christmas tree. Yeah. The artificial Christmas tree just seems to. Here's the thing about the artificial Christmas tree, though. I don't have a lot of storage space in my apartment, so I do have to figure out a place to store the Christmas tree when I'm not using it. You know, right? What that is an argument for getting a smaller artificial Christmas tree. So that's something I really probably want to start looking more into right now, while there's a lot of selection in the stores. It's kind of interesting how a lot of people like flocked Christmas trees. That is, Christmas trees that have the sort of the white coating on the branches that is reminiscent of snow. And then I've also been noticing like these new icicle lights that you can hang from your trees. They're looking pretty good these days. And you know, it also sort of brings to mind what to put on the top of the Christmas tree. And I think quite often I put nothing on top of the Christmas tree. You know, that's the branches on the crown of a Christmas tree, you know, at the top. They're they tend to be sort of flimsy. They don't have the strength to support a lot of weight. And so, it's not always convenient or easy to put something up there. A lot of the time, any kind of ornament at the top, well, it can be a little bit heavy. And so, you know, I guess it depends on the Christmas tree and your preferences. For me, I don't care to have anything up there on the top. There's also another aspect to the Christmas trees that I enjoy looking at, that they don't necessarily have to have lots of ornaments or garlands on them or tinsel or things like that. For me, just having the lights in the tree is good enough, and I derive a lot of enjoyment from that. We've been talking about Christmas trees that have, say, cookies hung from the branches. And I know that there are those traditional glass orb ornaments that a lot of people put on their Christmas trees. I'm not necessarily a fan of the orb ornaments. It's kind of interesting. I always found that those ornaments were pretty fragile. They were very delicate. Sometimes the ornaments would break. They would be made of this glass, and they would also be kept. There would be these hooks that you would sort of hook the loop at the top of the ornament into, and then the top of the hook would go onto the branch. That always seemed to be, to me, sort of like an unstable, it's kind of unstable. I think I've had ornaments that would fall off the trees pretty easily. I've never really been a big fan of ornaments on trees. For me, I like to have like a sturdy tree that, if I bumped it, it would it could accept the bump without sort of falling apart, right? Because let's face it, trees get bumped as you're walking by, as you're brushing by them. Yeah. So anyway, that's sort of my thinking about Christmas trees. I do like tinsel on Christmas trees, and I also like garlands on Christmas trees. Sort of plant-like, sort of wisps of ribbon and things like that. Pretty nice. I think I've put strung popcorn up like once, and that was when you were a kid. I don't know if you recall, Emily. But we did that a couple times, and it's kind of a lot of work. And so, it's not that much work. It's actually kind of a nice project. So anyway, why don't we begin our session today by reading a little bit from Mary McKenzie's book, Peaceful Living. So today is the 13th of November, and the quotation for the day is one by Andy Warhol. And Andy Warhol says, "They always say time changes things, but you actually have to change them yourself." That's pretty good. I like that. I'll say that quote again. They always say time changes things, but you actually have to change them yourself. That's true. So, Mary McKenzie's passage begins with the subtitle, "Consider the full set of needs in a situation." Have you ever tried to change a behavior? You see it, but you just can't seem to change it because it is a habit. An effective way to start the process of changing our behaviors is to look deeply at the needs that we meet or do not meet with the behavior. Remember, everything we do is an attempt to meet needs. Once we have connected to them, we can look at the other people's needs in the situation. Let's imagine that you are sitting in a meeting at work. Your boss wants you to take on a new project. You're already overwhelmed and you're worried about taking on anything else, So you cross your arms, purse your lips, and respond to her with short, choppy answers. What needs do you need? What needs do you meet with this behavior? Maybe protection. What needs do you not meet? Probably connection, support, collaboration, respect, consideration, and understanding. What do you suppose your boss's unmet needs are? How about ease, connection, support, collaboration, respect, and consideration? Once we can connect to the full set of needs we want to meet in any situation, we are better able to choose behaviors that are more likely to meet them. So, the thought for the day is be aware today of the needs you want to meet through your behaviors. If you are dissatisfied with your behavior, is there another way you can meet all the needs of the situation? Fascinating. So, when you're with other people, it's really important, I think, to consider other people's needs. To ask yourself, what does their world look like? And what needs are they trying to meet by their behaviors? And, use a process of guessing and question asking to help you sort of dial into the needs of the people who are around you. And then with this newly calibrated understanding of the situation, begin to use behaviors that not only satisfy your needs, but others perhaps. Maybe there are behaviors that can satisfy a mutual need or a joint need. And, I think it makes sense when you can to satisfy other people's needs at the same time. It'll make for more collaboration and goodwill among the people in your group. Yep, that makes a lot of good sense. So, I'm thinking that the next thing we can discuss is this book, Hark, A Christmas Sampler. I've been talking about Christmas lately, and we've gone through Christmas plants and Christmas carols and the origin of Christmas, the first Christmas tree, and a lot of folklore related to Christmas animals and Christmas foods. Anyway, we've been having a jolly good time talking about Christmas. And here are some more passages related to Christmas. And I'll just read them and we can talk about them. How does that sound? Well, that sounds good to me. So, I think this passage is talking a little bit about the history of Christmas. The Hebrew people celebrated Hanukkah, a festival of lights, in December. It marked an early victory in their fight to be allowed to worship one God. The Jewish people still celebrate it today. Their neighbors, the Persians, lighted fires in praise of Mithras, god of light. Close by, the Egyptians held a festival honoring Isis, mother of their sun god, Horus. It wasn't until the year AD 350 that Pope Julius set the date of Christ's birth and Christmas as December 25th. Not everybody was happy with the way Christmas came to be celebrated around the world. Too many of the old pagan customs seemed to remain in the festival. There were Yule logs and evergreens. There were banquets and presents, and there were special lights. Over the many years of celebrations, the church authorities often tried to get rid of one custom or another. In England, in the 17th century, the Puritans not only banned the singing of carols, but outlawed the hanging up of green boughs and mistletoe. They even proclaimed Christmas Day a fast day. This sober feeling spread to the English colonies in America, where Christmas became a very quiet affair for over a century. But in the Dutch colonies of America, like New Amsterdam, which later became New York City, the joyous celebrations still continued. When German immigrants came in numbers to the American shores, they brought with them Christmas trees and their fat, jolly Christmas spirit, Kris Kringle. In 1836, Christmas was proclaimed a legal holiday in the state of Alabama. It took another 54 years for the rest of the states and territories to do the same. But by 1890, all of America was celebrating Christmas officially. You know, that's kind of interesting. This whole idea of an official religious holiday like Christmas. That's something that probably wouldn't happen today. The idea of an official Christmas holiday, which does exist, it is on the calendar. And instituting it sort of statewide and even national, in every state, it's not something that would happen today. This is something that might have happened in 1836 or, maybe 1880, but not today, And so what we have in our calendar is a remnant of, a time when sort of religion was sort of supported by the state. Yeah, not so true anymore. State is definitely a neutral fixture today, where I'm actually quite pleased by that. It's part of separation of church and state, and it's a good direction for states to go, because they represent all the people within their state, and it's good that they not take sides in relation to things like that. I think there's a general consensus about that idea. Okay, so I was thinking that, I don't know if there's really not much I'm interested in saying about this passage. I think it was interesting that Christmas was established on December 25th by Pope Julius. I don't think I was aware of that before. I knew it was established, but I didn't know by whom and why. And it looks like it was through the Catholic Church. Who knew? And I'm actually not that familiar with Pope Julius. I don't quite know who he is. But 350 AD, that was a long time ago. I mean, that's one thing that sort of sticks out in my mind is 350 AD was like 1,500 years ago. Or more, 1,700 years ago. It was a long time ago. 1,400 years, yeah. That was a long time ago. And it's interesting that we still celebrate that holiday even today. That's pretty phenomenal. It's kind of interesting how human beings, how we really value traditional practices. We really value our ancestors, and we're sort of all sort of indoctrinated as we grow up into the pathways and live ways of our families and our culture and our society, and we carry on the tradition. It makes me wonder what traditions that we are inadvertently carrying on. Think about the assumptions that exist in our language, in the words that we use and how we use them. They're probably, and even things like personal identity. There's been a lot of discussion today in our political and social environment about gender. This whole idea of men and women and what makes a man and what makes a woman. I tend to think that what makes men and women are essentially, they're learned behaviors. At least that's my view mostly. There's the genetic component, which is just, our protein bodies. And, there are variations that happen in our chromosomes that don't allow for overgeneralizations. I mean, they allow for some generalization, but, it's important to be cautious about what's possible when it comes to chromosomes and how they mutate. But I think that really what creates gender is learned. Women learn to become women from other women. Men learn to become men through observing men. And it's kind of interesting how the genders sort of emphasize certain facets of behavior. And so in a sense, that's a tradition, right? I'm talking about gender as tradition. I'm talking about language as tradition too. We also have gendered words, feminine and masculine words and neutral words. It's really kind of interesting how we pass down these traditions. And, we may not even know really consciously that we're doing it, right? This whole idea of me being a man, I recognize that it's essentially the tradition of masculinity that has been passed down through the centuries and the millennia. And, it makes you wonder about what is essential. It may be that these whole masculine and feminine perspectives are illusion. And I think that's probably the case. And really, these are just traditional behaviors that, we've learned and sort of identified with, and they're not really necessary. It's sort of baggage from the past. And I just think it's really fascinating about how readily human beings sort of take the patterns of the past and sort of re-express them in the present, and then pass them down to future generations. I mean, holidays like Christmas are really, I think it's kind of, and holidays, and I mean, when I say holidays like Christmas, I mean, yeah, all holidays like Christmas are passed down through tradition and kept for thousands of years. It's this socialization that human beings go through, and it's an intimate part of who we are. We love this tradition. This tradition gives people meaning, right? It also helps them focus on things that are important to them. I was talking about earlier about how Christmas is really sort of a layering on of good thoughts and ideas and things to celebrate during this winter season. It's about snow and autumn leaves and pumpkins, and there's stories about gift giving and comfort and warmth and candy. And over the centuries there has been we're packing these traditions, the folklore, together, and at any moment we can add a new layer, right? I could write a story or a song and it could become part of the Christmas tradition that's carried on into the future for 50, 100, even 1,000 years. It's really human beings coming together and sort of packing into this time period things that make our lives more happy and more enjoyable and more peaceful. And, I can really appreciate that. I mean, I value having this holiday provided to me as a gift. It's a gift. It's a gift that the past, the historic people have given to me. And, I'm receiving it, right? And, and this is true for every holiday. It's a gift of folklore, a gift of costume, a gift of food, and an appreciation for plants, and even singing and dancing and food. And it's really an amazing gift that we're able to receive. And I receive that gift with honor, right? I'm so pleased to learn about a tradition that is so old. You know, Christmas was assigned to be December 25th by Pope Julius back in 350? No, 350 AD. So in a way, it's a gift. Pope Julius is giving me a gift, really a present, which is this holiday at this time of year. I'm really grateful for it. Thank you. And for everyone who's participated in sort of passing this holiday tradition down to their children, in a way, it's a gift of all those parents and a gift of those parents' children to me and to my family. And, I cherish that. Essentially, it is an expression of care, of a care of future generations. And that's what the holiday represents. And, I'm really grateful for it. I'm thankful to have received the gift of thankfulness. That people were kind and generous enough to give me. Yeah. And these are also my relatives. They're my family. The people who lived thousands of years ago, they're cousins of mine. Distant cousins, perhaps, but we're all related. It's this human family passing down what is good, even if in the form of, folklore or legend. It's a passing down of things that are good. And, I'll accept that gift. I can accept it. All right, so let's go to this question asking period. I'm gonna answer some questions in an effort for you to get to know me a little bit better. Maybe these are questions that you wouldn't have thought necessarily to ask me, and this is kind of fun. Take some time out to figure out what I'm really like. So question number 300: Are you geeky? And so the answer to that is yes, I'm geeky. And then the next question, the natural question after that is, what am I geeky about? And that's actually quite another good question. I'm geeky about science and philosophy and psychology. And I'm also geeky about electronic gadgets and computers, things like that. I'm geeky about those things. Now, I used to be geeky about comic books, but I don't indulge in them very much anymore. I used to be geeky about some TV comedy series like Seinfeld or Happy Days or whatever, Star Trek perhaps. But I really don't watch those programs anymore. I don't happen to have a television set, and I don't do a lot of video watching, film watching anymore. So I can't say that I'm geeky about that. And for me, geekiness is about having access or retaining trivial information. It's about the pursuit of trivia, fine points, fine distinctions related to areas of interest. And right now, if I'm geeky about anything, I'm geeky about science and manufacturing. And it also happens to be my profession. So it's good that there's a... So yeah, that's what I think I'm probably geeky about. So yes, I am still geeky after all these years. And I'm not geeky about what a lot of people are geeky about. Like some people are geeky about anime, and some others are geeky about movies and cinema and comic books and Pokemon and card games and board games. And here's the thing, I'm not geeky about any of those things because I just don't play those things. I don't know how people find the time, really. I used to be geeky about video games, but again, I don't have the time to play those games. At least I'm not setting aside time to play those games. I've got stuff to do. I've got goals that I want to meet. If I'm geeky about anything these days, I'm probably geeky about productivity and, as I mentioned, science and maybe electronic gadgets and computers. All right, so I think the question is a solid yes, I'm geeky. Now, I'm not geeky in another sense, and that is where sort of my behavior is sort of out of bounds in a particular way. It's not strongly out of bounds. Okay, next question. Question number 301. Describe an ideal first date. An ideal first date for me is a picnic in the park, or maybe even just even going to a coffee shop can be quite ideal. Having a little snack, maybe going to get some ice cream at an ice cream shop. That sounds like a pretty ideal date. Question number 302. Do you know all 50 states in the United States? Well, that's a really good question. There was a time I did know that I could just rattle them off. Boom, 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 boom. And today I don't think I could do that. Now, I'm very familiar with all the states, but to be able to sort of recall them in some kind of sequence or order, and sort of call them up at any time, no, I don't think I could do that. I would miss out on some of them. I'd probably get a good 40, 45 states. And I'd probably know a good 35 to 40 capitals, but I don't think that I could be relied upon to sort of deliver all that information at once in a methodical way. Question number 303. What things were you not good at as a kid? That's interesting. Excuse me. What things was I not good at as a kid? Well, as a kid, the question is, how far back do I go? Because when I was 0 days old, I was not good at anything. So I'll just say, like, when I was a teenager. I'll go back that far. What things weren't I good at? Well, there were some surprising things that I was good at when I was a teenager. For example, I was good at sort of relating with people when I was a teenager. And I was also quite good at joke telling. I was kind of a class clown. What things was I not good at? Well, I wasn't good at dancing back then. I was shy. I enjoyed reading. Oh, one thing I wasn't good at was math. That still is true, in my view. I've had a lot of practice doing math, and so I'm probably better than average, but I still don't think I'm very good at it. My standards might be a little high, though. Let's see, what else was I not good at? So I wasn't good at math, I wasn't good at dancing. What else wasn't I good at? Well, I wasn't very good at cooking. Pretty sure that's true. What else wasn't I good at as a kid? What areas did I struggle with as a kid? Um, I don't think there was one thing that stands out in particular that I wasn't good at. I mean, I was just as good as anyone else or my other friends when it came to most things. But I think I put my finger on it already. Okay, so question number 304. Have you learned such things now as an adult? Oh, yeah. There are many things that I'm better at now today as an adult than I was as a kid. For example, I'm a much better dancer. I've got a lot more confidence. As a person grows older, let me tell you, their confidence builds. And so I'm also a lot better at talking to people and connecting than I've ever been. And I'm really pleased by that. I'm a lot more confident when it comes to knocking on doors and giving people phone calls, things like that. Let's see. In what other ways have I improved? I'm not so sure I could say I'm better at math. I know more math. But to be better at it, I'm not so sure. I'm better at arithmetic than I ever have been right now. That's good. Let's see. What's the next question? Question number 305. Have you ever come across a dangerous situation? And you know what? I have only once or twice inadvertently stepped into potentially dangerous situations. They've almost always occurred on the road, like on the street, on the highways and things like that during snowstorms. Yeah. That's one of the reasons I don't care for snow. I don't really like to drive in the snow because I've had one or two close calls and recognize that, driving on the roads when the weather is poor is just not wise. So those are the extent of the dangerous situations I've been in. Question number 306. Have you ever been through a life-threatening scenario? No. Question number 307. Do you have a lot of friends? Well, I think I do. I think I have a lot of friends. I honestly think I have a lot of friends. So, yes. Question number 308. Do you have a best friend? No, I don't have a singular best friend, but I have lots of other close friends, but not a single best friend. Yeah. Question number 309. Have you ever lost someone dear? Well, yeah. I lost my brother in death when he was 6 years old. His name was Carlo Valentin Trujillo. And poor kid, he got leukemia, which is cancer of the blood, the white blood cells. And, he struggled a lot as a kid. I mean, he was only 6 years old, 4, 5, 6 years old. Poor kid, he really did suffer a lot. And my heart really goes out to him. And, yeah, that was a real challenge to our family. And it happened while I was in high school. And so, honestly, I had a lot of things going on in my life at the time. And so I didn't pay as much attention as I probably ought to or could have. My parents were there to assist him and really took care of most of the caretaking for him. So I'm really thankful that they shouldered that load. In fact, I'm outstandingly grateful for them taking that responsibility. As a kid, I was just focused on my own interests at the time. And, I really feel, that did leave a mark on me in that I've got this soft spot in my heart for children who suffer, who suffer from disease or disability. And it hasn't, I mean, that soft spot hasn't now really found an expression in my regular life. I think that, there's something about timing for me. When I was in high school, I was focused on my own stuff. And really, because of that, I sort of distanced myself from the loss of my brother. I just could. As a kid, at that age, a teenager, you're really kind of selfish and sort of wrapped up in your own world, right? Your own world of friends and colleagues and teachers and school. You're just trying to get through school, right? And all the challenges that adolescence brings. And so, I mean, my life was already full of stuff going on. And, I love my brother dearly. And it was tragic that he left so early. I'm encouraged today about how leukemia is, how readily it's cured today. Excuse me. I think maybe even 80% of cases are cured today. It has a really high cure rate using techniques such as bone marrow transplants, and the drugs they have today are pretty good. Certainly much better than they were back in 1986. I know. So, I'm thankful that technology has improved over the years. And it's basically been 30 years. And, my brother Carlo did not have a bone marrow transplant. I think I'm a little surprised. I guess they just weren't that common back then. It would have been nice for them, for us to have experimented with a bone marrow transplant to help out Carlo. I'm not quite sure why we didn't do it at the time. I think the standard therapy was chemotherapy. Anyway, I think it was rather ineffective. Anyway, yeah, so that's the only person so far. I mean, I did lose my grandparents, George and Eileen Gibson, who I was close to. I was close to both of them. They were charming people. They're people that you have never known, Emily. But I have provided to you pictures of them. And, there are videos of them that are available in the family film archives. It'd be nice to sort of get access to those films. I bet you I've got a few relatives who've got those. It might be nice to get them in digital format. I don't know. It might be hard to get at them again. Anyway, that's also part of the reason I like film and photography is its ability to preserve the past. I think that's important. I have mentioned this, I'm quite sentimental. I like thinking about the past and remembering. Quite often love the feelings I get when I consider my history. Anyway, what's the next question? Question number 310. Do you have many relatives? And the fact is, I do. In fact, Emily, you've got a lot of relatives too. Turns out they are almost all in New Mexico. But you've got relatives here in California too. One of these days we might have to go visit some relatives of ours here in California. Maybe when you turn 18, we'll go down south. I think we've got some relatives down south in Los Angeles and Orange County and further south. So, and we do have lots of relatives, and we have a lot of relatives in New Mexico. So, question number 311, do they live in this country? Oh yeah, they do. Question number 312, do you consider yourself a handy person? No, I don't consider myself handy at all. There are many more handy people out there than me. Now, that's not to say that I'm not trying. I am trying to become more handy. I'm trying to use my hands more and be better at using tools. In fact, I'm taking classes at Allen Hancock College to help improve my handiness. So I'm liking that. So I'm trying to improve my handiness. Next question. Question number 313. Can you assemble furniture? Well, yeah, sure. And I have assembled furniture from IKEA and other places. Yeah, it's no big deal. I can do. I'm actually relatively good at assembling furniture because I've got a lot of patience when it comes to tools and equipment. Okay, next question. Question number 314. Have you ever lived close to the beach? Well, I kind of live close to the beach right now. I live about 10 miles from the beach. In my mind, that's close. That's really close. When I open my door and exit my home, I can smell the ocean. I know. It's amazing. Now, have I ever lived closer than I am? Yeah. Well, when I lived in Seattle, Washington, I lived close to Lake Washington. And, I'm not sure if Lake Washington feeds into the ocean, but that was probably pretty close. Have I ever lived closer to the beach than that? That's a good question. No, I think right now I'm pretty much living the closest to the beach that I ever have. Although, Seattle, here's the thing. I didn't go to the beach very often when I lived in Seattle. So I really don't have a good sense of how close I was to the beach. The beach just wasn't a place that I went to a lot when I lived in Seattle, and I'm not sure why. Honestly, I didn't live in Seattle very long. I only lived in Seattle for about a year and a half. Okay. Next question. Question number 315. How do you cool down when it's too hot? Well, ideally, I'll walk into a space that has an air conditioner. And I've been known to use fans to cool off. I don't actually own a fan right now. How I cool off? I would guess that the main way that I cool off is I wear shorts and short sleeve shirts. And then maybe what I'll do is I will open up windows. And another thing that I'll do to cool off sometimes is I'll go travel somewhere. I'll go see a movie or I'll go to the mall. To me, those are ways that make a lot of sense. I actually, like I mentioned, I don't have a fan. And honestly, I don't expect to use one. I really just... Being really, really hot is not a problem that I have very often. Yeah. What's the next question? Question number 316. What is the most disgusting thing you have eaten? Disgusting thing. The disgusting thing that I've eaten. The most disgusting thing. Golly. Well, when I was a kid, and I'm talking about when I was 6 or 7 years old, I used to pick my nose, and sometimes I would eat a booger. I know I can barely even imagine it today, but I think I did that when I was a kid a couple times. I think I did. Maybe not. I could be mistaken. That was a long time ago. But that, whether it happened or not, that is a thought that's in my mind. It may not be true, but I think it might be. How about anything else? Honestly, I can't think of gross things that I've eaten. I don't eat a lot of gross things. And it's not really memorable. Yeah, that's kind of a tough question. Question number 317. Have you ever gotten sick from any food? Oh, yeah, I sure have. In fact, I remember being in college, I had a slice of pizza with anchovies on top, and I got food poisoning from it. And man, let me tell you, that was some hard times. Food poisoning is really painful. You know, your stomach gets crampy, and you just feel really bad. I mean, you feel like you're on the verge of death. That's what food poisoning feels like. And it's like you can't eat anything, you can't drink anything. It's like, it's really rough. And I've had food poisoning a few times. 4 or 5 times probably. And every time has been really tough. I remember the last time I had food poisoning, it was from eating some peanuts that I had rinsed off, placed in a plastic bag. I was just trying to get the salt off. And then I ate them a few hours later, and naturally, peanuts have this bacteria in them that produces a toxin, and naturally I got food poisoning, and I was just for a couple days, 1 or 2 days, I was really struggling, having to take time off of work and just feeling so bad. Yeah, food poisoning is rough. So I've gotten food poisoning from peanuts and from anchovies on pizza, most notably. Any other kind of food poisoning that I've gotten? I don't have good histories with Italian food. Yeah, I think I've had food poisoning from pizza maybe even once or twice. It's kind of funny. Okay, next question. Question number 318. Do you know how to fight? No, I don't. I consider myself a pacifist, so I've actually made a conscious decision not to learn how to fight. I know. Does that make any sense or not? Question number 319. Do you know karate? No, I don't. Question number 320. Do you have a real life hero? That's a good question. Do I have a real life hero? My heroes these days are people who display courage, and are vulnerable in the face of adversity. And to me, those people are heroes. They often happen to be good communicators and expressive and gentle, kind people. Those are my heroes. And, those are my heroes these days. So they're essentially family and friends who are willing to be courageous about what they're feeling and thinking in the moment. So those are my heroes. Now, I do have other heroes. I have intellectual heroes. For example, Albert Einstein, that's a hero of mine. Albert Ellis, who's a psychotherapist that lived back in the 1960s. He's a hero of mine. Philosophers, I have a lot of philosopher heroes. Ayn Rand is a hero of mine, sure. And Socrates is a hero of mine. Also Marcus Aurelius who is a Roman Caesar, a hero of mine. I have a lot of other heroes like Seneca, who's the a follower of Stoicism, and I have other heroes. A lot of philosophy heroes, interestingly, a lot of science heroes. But the heroes but I have heroes who I interact with on a regular basis. People who I think are really intelligent and expressive and have a lot of emotional intelligence and social intelligence. In fact, for me, people with social intelligence are my heroes. These are people who are able to thrive in every social situation, and they have an ability and willingness to reach out to others, and that's something I really admire. So people with emotional intelligence and social intelligence, and also conventional intelligence, groundbreaking thinkers of the past are also my heroes. So those are my heroes. Question number 321. Have you ever owned a bike? Well, yeah, sure I did. When I was a kid, I had this great BMX style bicycle called a mongoose. Is that what it was? It might have been called a mongoose. Darn, I really love that bicycle. Yeah, I love that bike. And was it a mongoose? I don't know, it might have been. Anyway, I love that bike. Golly, did I love that bike. I remember that it had silver stickers on it, and I just remember its shape, and I remember the handlebars and the grips on the handlebars, and golly, I love that bike a lot. I still love that bike. I got rid of it somehow. I'm not sure where or when or how I got rid of it, but yeah, there's some bikes that I have a lot of attached memories to. Now, I don't own a bike right now. That's something I really have to take action on and get myself a bike. I really need to go to REI and pick something up. I was thinking about picking up an e-bike, an electric bike, one that is battery powered. The prices on those bikes are really high right now. They're like $1,500 at a minimum, $2,000, $3,000. That's a lot of money. So, Emily, I just want to say thank you for bearing with me during this time and spending some time with me to learn a little bit about who I am and what's going on with me. I appreciate that time that you're willing to invest in us. And I hope you enjoyed my survey of the Christmas tradition and my focus on nonviolent communication and compassionate communication techniques. And I hope you have a fantastic day today and a fantastic rest of the week. The week's just getting started. And so I'm looking forward to Thanksgiving. And I'm also thinking about getting involved in the 5K race, the Turkey Trot. I think I might enroll in that race. So if you plan to do a little running race, maybe you'd be willing to join me and we'd do some running together, get some exercise, right? Speaking of exercise, I'll be going to the gym today, and so I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, again, I hope you have a fantastic day today. I wish you peace and happiness, and always open to helping you develop and evolve and transform into the amazing woman that I know that you can become. I want you to know that I love you and I cherish you and I love you just the way you are. I've got this deep deep respect and regard for you, and you're in my thoughts and you're in my heart. I love you.